I'm Jo Shepherd. I'm qualified as a social worker. I'm one of 2 directors of the UNTHANK Family Centre, which was formerly a family centre run by the local authority, and since our closure last year we've been reborn as a social enterprise. And we're offering 3 work streams. We're doing direct work with children and their families, we're doing workforce development, and we're doing assessments.
Great, thank you. Assessments of?
Generally parenting capacity, often within the court arena for the local authority.
Thank you, thank you. And how many staff do you have working for you?
There are 2 directors. We have a parenting specialist, we have a family centre worker, and we have a number of other staff who are working for us on a sessional basis as and when required.
And what sort of professional backgrounds?
Well, as directors we're social workers. We have drama therapist, we have an art therapist, we have a psychologist working with us as well, and people who've had great many years experience in direct work with children.
Great, thank you. So you're going to talk a bit about the UNTHANK Family Centre's work doing direct work with children. Can you tell me what sort of work that is, who's commissioning it, why it's being commissioned?
Well, the direct work will either be done by therapists or by our parenting specialist or a family centre worker. It's really a case of offering protected, therapeutic, predictable time to children who have experienced varying degrees of trauma by virtue of their life experiences. Some may be being looked after in foster care, some may have been adopted, some children are still at home with their families but subject to child protection procedures. So it's really about offering some time and space and containment, which they can reflect and begin to understand some of their experiences, and quite often go back and revisit early life experiences that they either haven't had or that weren't positive. And it's certainly an aspect of the work that we're now being able to offer directly to some schools, so that's quite exciting. We're doing direct work within the schools.
So the work that's going on in schools, who's actually commissioning that work?
Well, we're working with 2 schools at present, and certainly the first school that we began working with, we approached them in the first instance, I think even ahead of our closure, because we were quite excited by the new opportunities that becoming a social enterprise would present. We hadn't formally had a working relationship with schools whereby they could commission directly from us. We were only working with children who were already within the child protections or looked after children's settings.
So in this new setting with your social enterprise, you are actually in a position where you could go out and seek some commissions.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it was very exciting to go into a school and say these are the kinds of work that we're able to do, and to discover that the need was in fact very great. I think one of the most striking things has been that we're not working with any children or families of any lesser need than we were previously required to do so. So these are families that aren't within local authority systems, settings, but the need is just as great, and I guess the observation would be that schools are struggling to contain, fully understand the individual circumstances of certain children, and we were able to bring that more individual eye to the situation.
Because we were talking earlier about the sort of information that might inform why a child is behaving in a certain way or why a child presents in a particular way. that might not be known by schools. So how do you deal with issues around confidentiality, for example, in the work that you do that's commissioned by schools?
Well, we certainly always have an agreement meeting in the first instance, which would include a member of staff from the school, parents, the child, in order to fully explain our role and function and the nature of the referral as described to us by the school would again be shared at that meeting, so there would be clarity around what information was known, what information was being given. In terms of child protection, we're also very clear from the outset that if we're to learn anything that needs to be shared with the local authority to go further, that will of course have to be done. But the understanding is very much that we're all working together in this way, and that the school needs to understand more, parents need to understand more.
So Jo, how does the work that you do actually help schools understand more about the children that you're working with?
I think it was quite startling at the outset of our intervention that in the context of our agreement meetings, quite often a child's behaviours or the presenting concerns in school would be being offered to us by the school, sometimes by the parent. And even within the course of that first 45 minutes of an agreement meeting, the questions that we would naturally be inclined to ask or to wonder about were often eliciting understanding about the child's current circumstances. In one example, a father was in prison and the school weren't aware of that, and so there were quite a few moments of revelations, probably too strong a word, but just insight into what was going on here that might have informed an approach to the child or a sensitivity around the child. So I think there was often a level of surprise, and this was an approach we would naturally take.
We're always in the work that we're doing, we're always looking at how we can demonstrate good outcomes for children. So as a director of the UNTHANK Family Centre, what would you say if somebody asked you a question about how can you demonstrate that what you're doing actually makes a difference to children? What are they actually telling you?
I think in some respects it's less in the direct feedback to us than in the response to the service in school. There's certainly one worker who's working directly with a number of children in school who is able to talk about how a certain child needs them to be on standby at playtime. We'll check they're there for the child to come to if they need her. Quite often don't come, but there's been an acceptance and a looking forward to sessions and a predictability that we've been able to offer, which appears to be being accepted and used, and they're continuing to access and work with the service really, which I think is a strong indicator that something's going well for them.